Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I'm joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's doing this podcast from the year 2036 via ham radio. It's Olivia Richards! Hello!
Hey, that's the twist of our entire podcast. That's how we've been doing it this whole time.
It's all been leading up to this.
It's our secret's revealed now.
You exist in the future, just like, also like that NBC show, This Is Us, where we have parallel timelines occurring.
All coming full circle now.
And speaking of timelines, this is our second time travel pilot of the fall, but you better believe it's not our last. It is our latest show based on a 90s movie, although I think it came out in 2000. It's the CW's Frequency. Olivia, what did you think?
I'm 50-50 on this one.
On the fence.
There are certain elements that I like of it. I think I'm very much holding on for the characters and kind of wading my way through the craziness of the crime procedural time travel element. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. It was funny comparing this one to Timeless, the NBC pilot that premiered a little while back that I gave a very enthusiastic thumbs up to, and you were also lukewarm on. But this is definitely not that, right? This is not a fun romp through time.
Nope.
This is not going back and like the Revolutionary War and dressing up as soldiers and making quips. This is a very serious show about a woman played by Peyton List who, through a sort of series of coincidences, contacts her father from 20 years ago, on the day before he is murdered. And through their interaction, he manages to subvert the murder attempt and thus change history. But in the process of that changing history, her mother, his wife, becomes the victim of a serial killer that is now still active in 2016. And so the show, I imagine, will go on to follow her quest to both alter the timeline in the past and catch the murderer in the present. So it is not a procedural. It is a serialized drama. And yeah, I'm kind of on the fence too. I think I liked it. I think I liked it. It's what we said about Timeless still applies, despite them being very different shows, which is that any time travel show is going to be nonsense. If you pick too deep at any time travel show, you're going to come up with 1,000 questions that cannot be answered. So I kind of go into these purposely not engaging with the kind of questions that I would naturally have. Like, why is she the only person who keeps her memories from the alternate timeline?
Yeah, right?
Right, why doesn't everyone else have the alternate timeline memories? Questions like that. If she talks to her younger self, can she change her own history? Is she, like, locked into the present timeline because she can remember past time? Like, there's a lot of questions involving her role in the timelines.
Right, and I'm like, I love conveniently how every time she uses a ham radio, it's always during inclement weather, because I'm like, so if you tried to use it on a sunny day, I'm assuming it's not going to turn on, because every single time it was, like, activated by a lightning strike.
Yeah.
On her birthday. So I'm like, how is it functioning?
I think this one works best if you assume a higher power is at work here.
I'm going to suspend my disbelief.
Yeah, that it's not a coincidence. There is some higher power at work here, and this is all happening for a reason. And that I think it kind of plasters over a lot of the questions. But yeah, I mean, just separating that, because again, those are premise problems that are going to exist with any time travel show. I know they exist on like 12 Monkeys, which is a very serious and very well done show, but it's like you just time travel as a concept is kind of difficult to not have plot holes. So just like as a kind of police/family drama, what did you think about that? What did you think about like the relationship elements, the crime elements, all of that?
I think I was definitely driven and compelled most by the relationship dynamic, particularly between Raimi and her father. And how it played out the first time that they, discovered that they could communicate through this ham radio, and, seeing her realizing that she's speaking to her father, and then, she's trying to convince him, and his disbelief, and him like slowly trying to reach out to establish whether or not this is actually possible. I think like the first 20 minutes or half hour of their first communication was really, really compelling and really, really fascinating to watch. I kind of got lost within all the other plot details of what was happening. But I think I was really held by where Raimi was at emotionally, because I just think it's a very believable place that the show put her in, of, having this bitterness and this anger towards her father, and then realizing that she could talk to him, and then, taking her through the emotional rainbow of what that was like, being able to possibly prevent her father from dying in the first place, and then having her have to realize that the timeline's all messed up. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think it definitely works best as a study of Peyton List's character. That this is the story of one woman who has this supernatural event occur and messes with it without thinking. And one of the things I really appreciated about this pilot is how quickly they get through the period where they don't believe each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Nothing is less interesting in a drama than having the audience understand something that the characters don't. Misunderstandings are the death of drama. And so the idea that we got through in about 10 minutes, all the characters understood that this is what was happening. And it was sort of agreed upon that this is what happened. And that's good. That's like, we don't want to mess around with all this, disbelief and all of that. Like, that is boring. But yeah, this happens, and she contacts him and just out of instinct warns him. And she doesn't think through what the implications of that are. That in Timeless, for example, because we're dealing with some of the same mechanics, the sort of government entity warns the time travelers, don't mess with anything because you're going to change the present. Like, that is the sort of first rule of time travel. And of course, the in 12 Monkeys, it's like, if you mess with anything too much, you might unmake the time machine, and then we're all in trouble. Like, if you mess with an event that caused the creation of the time machine, everyone's screwed. Like, we're all done here. So, but she is, of course, like, this isn't a time machine. This is a sort of two-way communication with the past that she has no guide for. She has no one who really believes her. She has no sort of source of advice about this. And she does something that could be considered a mistake, which is she alters the past, and it ends up very much altering her present. And it's because the timelines are moving in parallel, because this isn't a time machine and she can't just go back, she has to cope with that. So it is, I think, a very compelling character study. It is a very interesting spot to put that character in, and I really like the lead performance in the show, and I think she does a really good job of making that character feel vulnerable but also in control and competent, and sort of the emotion of all of this, the wild emotional swings that occur throughout this pilot.
Oh, absolutely. And I like how I feel like anytime that they have a female character and she is kind of bitter or angry about something, it can come off as being just very like one note, and there's like not an understanding of the emotion behind that. So it just comes across as like this angry, jaded, cynical character, but you never really understand why. So I think when you're presented with a character like Raimi and you really understand, like you had said, it's a very compelling character study. So you understand where she's at. You're able to put yourself in her shoes. Like, we've all had feelings of at least a little bit of where she's been, just being angry and being frustrated and, being put in the circumstance that she really has no control over, and then, messing things up and changing things, but not understanding what's happening around her. I thought she was fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I think they also very much hit the right tone with that, with her frustration over her father. I think there's a tightrope to walk between having her be just totally accepting of him, of his sort of imperfections and his what seemed to be sketchy actions, although by the end of this episode it might not be the case. But also not what you said, not hectoring and nagging and sort of childlike. She was very mature, I thought. And also, we should mention, the change in the timeline also causes her to never have met her would-be fiance. So she loses her mother and her soon-to-be fiance in one fell swoop. In the process of saving her father, who then dies 5 years prior to the present in a car accident. So she's kind of left alone due to this, and dealing with those implications, dealing with the idea that she literally unmade her mother, is I think a very compelling arc for the series. And obviously her mother has not been murdered yet. She has been abducted in her father's timeline, but not murdered. And so I'm sure there is going to be a lot of parallel investigating that likely involves her younger 8-year-old self, who she had a conversation with later in this episode, probably really testing the limits of time stuff.
That awkward moment when.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, I think this was very interesting. I agree with you. I didn't love it. I wasn't completely taken by it, but I also think this is a really well done show that executes the premise well and also distances itself from the movie. I never once thought about the movie frequency during this. As opposed to during the Lethal Weapon premiere on Fox, all I thought about was Lethal Weapon. So,
in all fairness, I think most people have actually seen Lethal Weapon.
Good point. So. You know what? When you're right, you're right. That's true. Maybe if you're going to remake a movie for TV and name the TV show after the movie, just pick a movie that people don't know as well.
Right.
Maybe that's the key.
Just pick something obscure.
Yeah. But I did like this show. It's not going to be one of my favorites, but I thought it was good. I think it's very well done, very professional, and has a pretty compelling hook to it. So,
absolutely. I
don't know if the audience agrees. This premiere did a 0.4 in the demo, with 1.4 million viewers, but this is a CW show, so 0.4 and 1.4 aren't terrible numbers the same way they would be for NBC or ABC, but there's also not so great, maybe.
Yeah.
So do you think this one will be canceled quickly, make it through the season, or renewed for next season?
I could see it making it through half a season. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say a full season, but I could see it making it through maybe 6 or so episodes.
Well, that's canceled quickly. You can't sugarcoat that.
I know.
I think it'll get through a season. I think the show itself is interesting enough, and it seems like the CW has really turned over this leaf where they're concerned about quality, which is for the CW, historically, it's whoa, where did this happen?
Right.
But I think this show is pretty good, and it doesn't really fit with their current lineup of really smart dramedies, smart progressive dramedies, and superhero shows. It's kind of an odd fit for all this.
Which is interesting because I think it actually comes from one of the either producers or writers of Supernatural. So, I mean
there of course is the supernatural component of this show, but it is very much a cop drama. Mm-hmm. It is at its core not a science fiction show so much as it is a murder investigation, which is very interesting to me.
Right.
It's just a weird fit for the CW, but I think it'll get through one season. Would be my prediction. That might be optimistic.
Maybe.
So your final verdict, Olivia, thumbs up or thumbs down on frequency?
For the sake of what I saw in the pilot, it wasn't bad. Yeah. And there were moments that I liked. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Hey, I kind of knew you'd come down because you always come down optimistically.
Right.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up too. I liked it enough. There's nothing I think wrong with it. I don't think there was anything about this show that I didn't like. It just, I was kind of lukewarm on a lot of it. But I like the performances. I like the premise. I like the main character. That's enough. That's good enough for me to enjoy it and give it a thumbs up. So you've been listening to The Pilot Roundtable, a TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Till next time. All right, we did it.
Did it.
A couple days late. Sorry again.
Ouch, you're fine.
All right. Well, I will wait for your email on Monday. See what we got on our docket, and probably.
Hey,
talk
it
to you
could
next
be
week.
anywhere between 0 and 20 pilots.
0 and 20. We got a wide range. We're casting a wide net.
Right.
All right. Have a good weekend, Olivia.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.